Welcome to Coffee Time with Brenda and Mary.
What are we talking about today?
Well, you know how we go. We just go with the flow.
Okay, then let's go.
Hello, everyone. I'm not even going to introduce what we are yet because we don't have a name. But I can say it's going to be Brenda and Mary.
Yeah, we're no name brand right now.
Yeah.
We're waiting for help from you guys for a new name.
Yeah, we'll get it. We'll get it.
But until then, we still have things we want to talk about. And the last episode, we talked a little bit about learning. And how does somebody go about learning about this stuff? Like, I get to pick your brain whenever I have some weird question. But you can't take calls about everything from people.
And the funny thing is, I've actually had calls where I leave it open.
Mm-hmm.
I always leave. Anybody have a question? There's never questions. But then I'll get emails asking me questions because everybody's scared to type in their question.
Yeah.
So if I had a forum of people, let's ask questions, let's just ask. Everyone's quiet because they probably, my question's weird. I don't know, but they're not weird. They're all great questions.
And it's a unique topic. So your question might be weird. And the whole point is that's okay. You can ask your weird questions. There's like no judgment here.
Exactly.
So feel free to send your questions over. But until then, we have a different way that maybe you can learn some stuff about what Brenda is talking about.
Well, you know, along my journey, I have read many, many books. I'm an avid book reader, and then I fell in love with Audible because I'd be driving to work listening to Audible. The beauty of today's day and age is we get to be very specific on what we watch. So turn off the news, turn off the negativity, grab an educational book, grab a book that you resonate with, listen to a podcast, all those good things. So I am going to create a list of my favorite books, and I'm going to put them in order to lightness and heavier and heavier and heavier as we go.
Yeah.
I just have a few here that I want to talk about, and this is one, and it does not have the same cover anymore because this one's very old. This one is You Can Heal Your Life from Louise Hay. So the reason I love this one is anyone who's like, I just having an awakening experience, I'm just getting into, can you suggest a book? Very light reading. But it also has these very powerful affirmations about self-love. One of the biggest issues people have is self-love. I'm a big affirmation queen. We could probably do a whole episode here on affirmations.
Yeah.
But affirmations said out loud in this day and age are super powerful. Sometimes I create specific affirmations for people. Sometimes I just refer them to this book. For instance, if you bought this book and you're walking through it, I would suggest getting the hard copy, not just on Audible, because it's a great reference material. Because in the back of this book, it has different problems, like why do I have a gout problem? Or why do I have a bladder problem? Or why do I have blood pressure or diabetes? So sometimes people will come and say, oh my God, Brenda, I read what diabetes means. And all of a sudden they say there's the reason why you have diabetes and then this affirmation. So here, diabetes is the longing for what might have been, a great need to control, deep sorrow, no sweetness left.
Wow.
Now, I remember I was diagnosed with diabetes during my pregnancy. And when I read this, exactly, I was like, oh. So, although I think my reading with gestation today was 22, I decided I'm going to work on this myself. I didn't want insulin shots. I started this affirmation, and I was keeping it at 4, and they couldn't believe how. And I told my class, my diabetes class, I'm reading this book, and it says this, and they're like,
what does it say that your affirmation would be?
The affirmation was, this moment is filled with joy. I now choose to experience the sweetness of today.
So you just have to repeat that like all day long?
10 times a day.
10 times a day.
20 times a day, nowadays out loud. Like I have things for nail biting. Some kids have nail biting. It has to do with fear. Bedwetting has to do with fear. There's lots. Have your kids say these. This book is phenomenal. I love it. Pink eye.
Yeah.
I remember at work I used to bring this book and people would come to my office. Oh, I have pink eye. Oh, say this affirmation. Brenda is gone.
It's so interesting you say that, because I have a book like this from Louise Hay that's just a dictionary.
Yeah.
You know, because
it has all those.
All those in it.
Yeah,
and I had that like years ago before I ever even met you.
Yeah.
So
this is the beginner book.
Yeah.
It has a new cover. Fabulous book. Another book that I read many years ago, but it was a little confusing. And someone recently said, Brenda, I love the book, but the last chapter is a bit weird.
Yeah.
It's The Four Agreements.
That one's kind of mainstream. I've seen that one around a lot.
And everyone loves it until they hit the last part where it says, I don't remember exactly. It says pretty well what it's saying is you really have to let go of your personality self and make yourself new. Confusing. How do you do it? So, but great book if you're interested.
Yeah.
Another one that I love. I love Eckhart Tolle. I've read about all his books. I think I've read all his books, even his retreat books.
Yeah.
But this one was my all-time favorite, The Power of Now. When I got this book, I could not read it. It was too much for me. So when I get a book that is too high in energy, I sleep with it for about 2 weeks.
Wait. How did you know it was too much for you?
It was when I would pick it up and I'm trying to read it. It just was like, oh my gosh, I can't.
Okay.
There's just something. And I just could feel it, the resistance inside me saying, you're not ready for it. It's too high. Put it down. So I said, I'm going to do my best. So what I did is I slept with it. And in 2 weeks, I did set the intention that I would love to read this book because I heard so many great things about it. And then when I picked it up 2 weeks later, it was like the words just melted my heart. And I just felt so connected to the book. The energy of the book will work with your subconscious, so you'll accept that. It's a learning by just holding the book.
I think I'm going to have to sleep with it.
Now, this is another book. Now, this is the latest series I've been doing. Now, I have about 100 books in between. Then this one came. This is from Paul Selig. And some client, who's no longer a client anymore, got very mad that I suggested this book for her. She was saying that it was an awful book. And it is powerful. It is pure love. He has 12 books. The 12th one is not out yet. Every book, and I've done these in a year, and this works with you. Like all books work with you. It breaks down your belief patterns and allows you to learn more. But this one is a working book. And I did this one, and I did it through Audible, probably listened to about 15 times. Went to book 2, 3, 4. Some of them I could just listen to 3 or 4 times. Some of them were a little harder, especially the one about self-love. I think I had to listen to that one 30 times because I just couldn't grasp the concepts. If you can get past what the word means, I am word, it's a very powerful phrase, and he explains it beautifully in this book. But recently, I went back to this book, and this is actually the first time I actually bought it. And I'm reading it in paper now, and I'm reading it so differently because all those other books and all the work I've done, we're always changing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not the same person I was a week ago. I was not the same person when I read this a year ago. And I'm like, wow, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I am, actually, I was going to say, Mary, this is the one. But this, if you haven't read this one, this is the one. Then do this one.
Yeah.
But beautiful books. Books are a great way. Audible, I'm not an Audible, I don't get no kickbacks from Audible, but I love Audible because you store the books on your phone. You can listen to them anywhere when you're driving. And so when you're falling asleep, you can set a timer. So I love Audible, and I read a lot more or listen a lot more because of Audible.
Well, you can walk and listen, which is nice instead of sitting, which,
do the dishes and listen, So people know when I'm listening to a book because I'm like loving the energy, or if I'm listening to music because I'm dancing around. So there's a difference, right? But I'm going to give a list of, I get a lot of people asking, what books are resonating with me? I won't know. If I sit with someone and say, oh, you need this book, and sometimes they get this. Like there's another one I was talking to a client that said, you need to read Synchronicity from Kirby Surprise. That one's coming in for you. Read that, you'll love it. And they love the book. Right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down my list.
Okay. Where are you going to post that?
I think I'm going to post the link under this, and then it's going to lead to a page on my website.
Okay.
And I'm going to keep adding my books, and I'll give the kind of in order of intensity.
Yeah.
Right? But the thing is, you pick up a book, see if it's for you. Audible gives you a sample. Sometimes we don't like the author or whatever, or the person reading it. I love the Paul Selig. Actually, I love the Eckhart Tolle on Audible as well because they say it in their voice.
Yeah, so would you say these 2 books are for like a beginner who's just starting to learn about this energy
Probably
stuff?
not. This is pretty
Okay.
intense.
So I think that's important.
But you know those people who are like, give it to me. I want it. I want to go in. They're all in.
Oh, yeah.
All right, these books. All right,
Okay.
these are the books. There they are. All right.
That's for jumping
But
in.
if you want to go slow, and I can usually gauge when people, this is a beautiful, beautiful book.
Okay.
That really starts that process of loving yourself, and it's really well written. I love that book. But there's another one called I Am from Howard something. I don't know exactly. Fabulous book about a guy going through a journey. Very relatable. Guys love that book. And actually, I loved it. And I'm not a guy, but I love that book.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. And I think you mentioned some books that you like as well.
Well, you know what? The one I started recently reading was called Soul Speak. And I can't remember the author now. Her last name is Cannon.
Doris Cannon.
Her daughter, actually.
Oh, okay.
Her daughter wrote the book and is telling her mom's stories.
Okay.
And what they learned together. And I connect with it because she's a nurse that works in intensive care.
Oh,
and
nice.
so I'm a nurse. And so I'm like, I got to read this. And that's a very interesting book. Very thin, very simple. But also books like The Alchemist, which is like, you know, an older book, but also just gets you thinking about life in a different way than what we are kind of programmed to think about it. Like get up, go to work, you know, eat, go to sleep. There's just more to it than that. And so I think these books help you to explore that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the reason I want to bring this out because I get asked all the time, what books do you suggest? And everyone, I suggest different ones. So you know what? I was given a list a long time ago, and I've read all that list and so much more. So feel what resonates with you. There's no right or wrong.
Happy reading, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
If you have any questions or comments, visit us at sobrilliant.ca.
Sending you lots of love and light. Until next time.